At a constructed compute campus, the building is finished and the server hall is ready, but dependable grid service has not arrived. Construction completion does not create a dependable right to draw a large amount of electricity at that location. Electricity is a commodity, but firm grid access is also a claim on connection capacity, reliability, upgrades, and a place in the system. A finished facility can remain unusable because buying electricity and securing a dependable right to draw a large load at one grid location are different transactions. That turns an apparent construction problem into an allocation problem. Who receives dependable capacity first, who can wait, and who pays for expansion? The answer shapes investment incentives. Consider a constructed regional compute campus, not a claim about any named project, utility, or completed data center. The setting is fictional. Firm service requires upgrades that take longer. A non-firm connection could arrive sooner, but it can limit consumption during constrained periods. The proposed service level determines the trade-off. The director must compare waiting for firm service against opening early under terms that can interrupt the campus when the system is constrained. Each path changes the revenue start. The visible consequence is financial. The campus revenue date depends on who accepts curtailment and upgrade risk, not on the building alone. Construction value arrives only through service. Grid admission therefore allocates more than electrons. It allocates timing, reliability, curtailment risk, and responsibility for network investment. Those rights matter. A large load needs more than power somewhere on the network. It needs a service arrangement that works when demand, generation, and local equipment are stressed during its promised operating periods. That arrangement may include studies, connection equipment, transmission work, generation assumptions, operating limits, and rules for paying upgrade costs. Each element carries a separate risk. The scarce product is permission to rely on capacity at a specific place and time, under terms the wider system can support. The local claim is contractual. The first reframe is simple. A grid queue is not merely a line for electricity. It is a process for allocating dependable system access. It governs access under stress. The International Energy Agency reports that grid planning, permitting, and construction can take 5 to 15 years, while data centers can be built in 1 to 3. The comparison is reported and bounded. Those are reported cross-project ranges, not a deadline for any particular facility, country, utility, or campus. Local evidence determines individual schedules. The mismatch creates a queuing problem. Data center capital can be ready while transmission, studies, permits, or local equipment remain the slower complement. Those delays can strand capital. The IEA also describes non-firm connections as a way to enable faster access when a user's output or consumption may be limited at certain times. Terms vary across jurisdictions and users. Non-firm service is not free capacity. It exchanges a sooner connection for a different reliability promise and a different exposure to curtailment. The risk is contractually allocated. That can suit a workload with flexibility, but it may not suit a service whose value depends on immediate, uninterrupted availability. Workload characteristics determine suitability. The economic question is not whether one connection is better in general. It is which party can absorb the system constraint at the lowest cost. That comparison is a cost allocation exercise. Suppose the campus opens early under a conditional contract. It earns some revenue sooner, but it must plan around possible limits. The launch still depends on conditions. The alternative is to wait for a firmer connection. That may protect service continuity, but it delays use of finished buildings and installed capital. The wait still consumes capital. Neither option erases scarcity. One shifts risk into operations, the other shifts it into time, financing, and foregone revenue. Each package preserves a different value. That is why service terms matter as much as wires. They define what the campus can promise its own customers. Customer promises follow the grid contract. Cost allocation adds another layer. Network upgrades must be financed, and the rules decide whether sponsors, existing users, or a wider customer base bear more risk. The financing choice redistributes exposure. If a sponsor pays for upgrades, it can accelerate its own path, but accepts the risk that future demand or system conditions change. Acceleration comes with demand uncertainty. If costs spread more widely, existing customers or future users may share the burden of infrastructure, built around uncertain large load plans. Shared funding spreads uncertain exposure. Institutional design, therefore, influences which built assets become economically usable first, even when their physical construction is complete. Rules shape the order of use. The practical rule is to price the whole connection package: timing, firmness, curtailment exposure, upgrade costs, and the value of starting earlier. The calculation includes foregone revenue. One possible equilibrium offers firm service at a later date and conditional service earlier, with different prices and operating obligations. Another equilibrium combines large loads with local generation or storage, changing the connection request but adding its own capital and operating constraints. A third option is to co-locate generation and load, which can change network needs but does not remove permitting, reliability, or contractual questions. Contracts govern the site. On the 18th of June 2026, FERC directed 6 U.S. regional grid operators to justify or reform large load connection rules, including cost shifting, flexible load service, co-location, and related generation studies. That action is a dated U.S. federal process, not a global rule, and not proof that final uniform tariffs have already been adopted. The broader lesson is institutional, not merely technical. Q rules decide whose project moves first and who carries the uncertainty around upgrades. The conclusion is not that every large load should accept curtailment. Some workloads need firm service because interruption destroys their value. Nor is every upgrade justified. A proposed expansion can be too costly or too uncertain when expected demand may not materialize. The limitation is jurisdictional. Connection terms, queues, cost rules, and service options vary across systems and must be checked locally. A validating case is the constructed campus. The building is complete, yet the finance director chooses between delayed firm access and earlier conditional service. A rational exception is a campus serving time-critical work. It may value firm access more than an earlier conditional start. Another alternative is a project that can relocate, shrink initial demand, or match flexible workloads to conditional service, trading location, scale, or certainty. The corrected claim is conditional. Grid access constrains finished compute capital when dependable local service is the binding complement. To evaluate a future campus, begin with the service it must promise: uninterrupted real-time capacity, flexible batch capacity, or something between. Then inspect the local grid claim, connection equipment, studies, transmission needs, operating limits, upgrade responsibility, and realistic timing. Next, ask who absorbs the constraint: the campus through curtailment, the sponsor through upgrades, existing users through cost sharing, or the project through delay. Finally, test the assumptions. Demand can change, upgrades can face uncertainty, and a connection design that works locally may not transfer elsewhere. The full resolution is that grid admission allocates reliability, timing, upgrade costs, and curtailment risk alongside electricity itself. Non-firm terms, co-location, flexible load service, or local resources can accelerate some projects, but each changes who absorbs the system constraint. This is why a finished building can have less economic value than it appears to have from construction progress alone. The practical test is not whether electricity exists somewhere nearby. It is whether dependable local access matches the campus service promise. When the local grid claim is tight, a faster construction schedule can create completed assets that wait on institutional and network capacity. For future projects, test the building plan against connection studies, firm and conditional terms, upgrade costs, curtailment exposure, and workload flexibility. Treat regulatory examples with the same discipline. Ask which jurisdiction, date, procedure, and local rule the claim actually describes. The next question is local again. If a compute campus must reject heat, can a nearby user ever turn that output into value? A sound connection strategy aligns the building's schedule with its service terms, with the workloads it can curtail, and with its ability to finance upgrades. That framework does not forecast an approval date. It shows which assumption, firmness, timing, cost, or flexibility would change the campus outcome. It also separates a local connection problem from a universal shortage claim. The constraint is a specific system, right under specific rules. For the next question, follow the output the campus cannot avoid: heat, its local buyer temperature match, and delivery path create another allocation problem. Grid access is an allocated service, not merely an energy purchase. The future is just incentives at scale. See you tomorrow.